Welcome. I'm Jackie Coleman, and I'm the Executive Director here at Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts. And welcome to the 6th Annual Ignite Annapolis. I think we're already ignited, which I'm really excited about. Please indulge me for a moment because I would like us all to acknowledge someone who is very important in making sure that Ignite Annapolis has remained in this community. In 2009, as the co-founder and lead organizer, Chris Schock has kept this going. So Chris, could you please stand up and let us acknowledge you? Honestly, I arrived here at Maryland Hall in March of 22 from Connecticut, and I didn't know anything about Ignite. And, and we were already on the calendar to have Ignite in that fall, which was the 5th one, which I was really excited about. And Chris told me all about it. And then she, also said it's been a volunteer-driven thing. And, we're kind of ready to pull in some new energy. And what about Maryland Hall? And so it's taken us a couple of years to really figure out how to do it here and to build the capacity. But I am ever so grateful to 3 of our staff who I feel like have been at the helm of this. So please help me recognize Austin Spazzato, Imani Washington, and Adonia Akins for their hard work. And of course, I have heard a lot and actually met, I think, almost all of these folks who apparently were on the former organizing committee, which basically was sort of the machine that helped make everything happen with Ignite. So John Frenay, Liz Thibodeau, Jennifer Hurston, Trish Farrell, and Kathleen Booth. Give them all a round of applause. And this year in particular, we want to give a special shout out to John Fernay and Chris Schock, because it wouldn't be happening tonight if it weren't for the two of them and the support they've given the team. So now I get to tell you a little bit about our host for the evening. So when I arrived in March of 22 from Connecticut, I didn't know anybody. And if somebody invited me to coffee, lunch, or whatever, I said yes. You know, I learned yes, yes, good in the first couple years, you know, as you start to get to know a community. And I had the opportunity to meet Paul Talamo. Okay, I'm saying it right. I know I was saying it wrong backstage. So anyway, which is Kate's husband. And he reached out to me as an entrepreneur, and he said, you want to have coffee? And he introduced me to a lovely little place in town called Curate. Maybe you've been there. Yeah, and we sat down and we had coffee, and we talked about a lot of ideas, and it was really exciting. And he mentions, you know, his wife and what she does. And I said, well, gee, I'd love to meet her. And it connects us. And then she and I really got along. And she made a good point to me, one that made perfect sense when I arrived at Maryland Hall, where we are art for all. Didn't really have a lot of literary arts going on at the time. And I said, what should we do about that? And she said, well, I'll lead a book club. So we have had Kate Myers leading a book club once a month here at Maryland Hall, in case you didn't know about it. It meets on the last Thursday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. Typically, it's been in our Katzeff Brothers community room, but during our renovation, it's down in the gallery. And you can join us for the October month, which is October 30th. And the book is We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lange. And you are welcome to just show up. Books are always shared on the website, so you can come by, you can check out and see, I want to come this month or maybe not this month. And then I now want to share a couple of her professional credits, because they're pretty professional. And I want to make sure you know how fantastic your host is for this evening. And that she has been to Ignite in the past too. So she's been sitting in the audience where you are. Oh, and I forgot something I was going to do. I met at least 2 people out in the lobby beforehand that actually were Ignite speakers in the past. Can you, if you were an Ignite speaker in one of the last 5 Ignites, before we welcome Kate, can you please stand up so we can acknowledge you for your courage in keeping this exciting evening going? I know oh yeah, I see a couple, all right. Thank you all for being here. And I think you still can see their speeches online because they are recorded. So Kate Myers, let me tell you about her. She is the best-selling author of the novels Excavations and Salty. She studied archaeology at Penn and has written for Self, Elle, BuzzFeed, and College Humor in New York and Los Angeles. Her novel, Excavations, is now being turned into a TV series on Peacock, coming out in 2026, starring Amy Poehler and produced by Michael Schur. Woo! Yeah. Kate is also executive producer on the show, and she lives here in Annapolis with her husband and 2 daughters and leads a book club at Maryland Hall. Put your hands together for our very own Kate Myers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Book Club. This is a lot more people than we usually have. As Jackie said, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you all for coming. I love Ignite. And in the past, I've been sitting in the audience and enjoying it myself. I've always wanted to participate, and the speakers are so inspiring and so incredible, as you'll see tonight. And when Austin and Jackie reached out to me about hosting tonight, it was very reminiscent to me about one time when I got a call from my high school. I went to Severn Park, when the alumni office told me, we are hosting a 40 under 40. And, you know, all the people and the alumni of Severn that have done extraordinary things. And I said, oh my gosh, thank you. And they said, we'd love for you to be on the committee to help us decide who those people are. So maybe someday I'll graduate to be an Ignite speaker, but tonight I'm just the host. So thank you again for all coming. Thank you to all our incredible speakers ahead of time. And you're not here to see me, you're here to see them. So without further ado, they'll kick it off.
So last fall, I stood in front of a classroom for the very first time at Anne Arundel Community College as an adjunct professor. It's my very first time teaching, and I was irrationally confident. What I hadn't considered is that 18 and 19-year-olds are really intimidating. They do not smile politely at you. They don't fake laugh at your jokes. They just sit there and stare at you. So on the first day of class, I wanted to, number one, break the ice, but number two, not mispronounce any names. And so I referenced the Key and Peele AA Run skit. Completely blank faces. They claimed they had never even heard of it. So it comes to grading homework. And these students are not just skipping the reading assignments, they're also outsourcing their homework to ChatGPT. And now I'm an AI detective. Not something I imagined doing. I had one student turn in an assignment with the emojis that ChatGPT uses when it's trying to sound friendly. Can you imagine turning in a college level assignment with a smiley face? That happened. I also caught another student because I also copied the prompt, pasted it into ChatGPT, and came out with the exact same thing that he had turned in. Same sentence, same structure, same everything. Now, my favorite one, though, is the student who seemingly deliberately tried to start misspelling words. I guess they thought that if it was sloppy, I wouldn't recognize it as AI. And listen, I know I'm teaching finance, not phonics, but I knew. Very creative, but I absolutely knew. Now, the thing that really surprised me the most was that these students were not just wrestling with AI, they were also really wrestling with each other. I had some extroverts in the class, but a lot of the students struggled to even make eye contact with each other. And maybe that shouldn't surprise us because these are kids who went to high school during COVID on Zoom. They were comfortable using a chat box to have a conversation, but sitting in a classroom full of strangers, that probably wasn't too comfortable for them. The mental gymnastics of teaching this class, I have fears myself because how do I relate to students who think that Stranger Things is classic television? Started in 2016, by the way, not that old. I had one extrovert student who I loved dearly, but she would actually question everything that I said live in class. She would challenge my math, Google my examples, and I loved her, but it was really challenging being graded on my teaching while I was doing it live. Now, the irony of all of this is that the stories that I'm telling you today I actually outlined using ChatGPT. The very same homework helper that my students used, I used as well. Yes, even this slide. ChatGPT actually created all of the artwork for this presentation. So if you can't beat the robots, you might as well put them to work for you, right? So my favorite story of the semester is of a student who had to give his presentation on the final day of class. And he had spent the entire semester sitting in the back row. So as he's walking up to the front of class, he reaches into his pocket, pulls out his phone, and answers it, and has a full, loud, very bold conversation in front of the entire class, like he's in his living room. And the best part is that he ends the call by saying, "Hey bro, yeah, I gotta go, about to give a presentation." Hangs up and then turns around like nothing ever happened, like this was totally normal. So what I learned from teaching is that you've got to really embrace the mess, that it's going to be all, Hold on. Oh, hey. Yeah, no, I'm at Ignite. No, I've got 700 people staring at me. Yeah, I gotta go. So my first semester was messy, it was chaotic, sometimes it was absurd. But I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to teach at the #1 community college in the United States. And to do that in front of students who, if nothing else, are brave, creative, and innovative. Thank you.
Pakistan, huh? That's a tough one. 7,000 miles away, second largest Muslim population in the world, with India, China, Afghanistan, and Iran as neighbors, and nuclear weapons. And it's where we got the former head of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, in 2011. Or, a little less than a year before I worked there for a private American company as a civilian. No gun, no bulletproof vest, no security detail. Yet it would be in Pakistan, or Pakistan, that I would have the most memorable 4th of July in my life, which is really saying something because my family and I have been to the parade in Severna Park, and that's pretty hard to beat. What I'm gonna do here tonight is share 3 things with you. First, some background. Second, a story about that 4th of July. And third, a challenge for each and every one of you. But first, the background. I was 12 years old on 9/11. It was picture day at my junior high, and this picture of me was taken minutes before I first heard the news, before whatever innocence remained in me was obliterated by acts of terror. I was just a kid, but resolved myself to learn Arabic and to join the CIA to prevent this from ever happening again. Growing up in post-9/11 America, I blindly accepted the idea that Muslims, Arabs in the Middle East were all just synonyms for terrorism. Studied Arabic in college, studied abroad in Egypt, but for the transformative experiences I had there, decided against the CIA. Instead, I took a job with a company setting up an office in Pakistan. Never mind the fact that I was a white Catholic, 23-year-old American kid in the most anti-American country in the world. If Egypt were a test, Pakistan would be a crucible, which leads me to my story. It was July 4th, 2012. I was in Islamabad, the capital, and had been there long enough to consider some among my colleagues as friends. But in a place like Pakistan, could I really be sure? Wrapping up a meeting, I see through the conference room's windows colleagues rising from their chairs. My attention shifts from the person before me to those now forming a line at the door. Someone's holding a white box, and is that the glint of a knife? My heart rate shoots up. Sweat beads my palms, and I try to keep my calm as the group files in and takes up positions around the table like a firing squad. The white box is set before me. I think I know it's a bomb. Maybe you do too. Instead, what's inside is as unexpected as it is unmistakable. It's an American flag cake. My colleagues had decorated a white sheet cake with blueberry jam and raspberries in a close approximation of Old Glory. I was blown away. I mean, it was so remarkable because it was impossible, wasn't it? Didn't these people hate Americans? Didn't they hate us? Yet here was a group of these same people celebrating July 4th in Pakistan for the benefit of their American colleague, me. These same people who a minute before I thought were going to kill me. Stereotype is sticky like that. In so many ways, this single episode represents my larger stereotype-shattering experience in Pakistan. And if there is a single lesson, it is this: we generalize the bad and individualize the good. I'll say that again. We generalize the bad and individualize the good. We define a country, a faith group of people by its worst elements and consider anything contrary to prevailing belief to be an outlier, an exception. Which leads me to my challenge for you here tonight. I challenge you to be open to the possibility that your expectations of the other are the exceptions to the rule. I challenge you to counter popular perception with personal experience. You need not go to Pakistan to do this. You don't even have to go to Severna Park to do this. What you need is an open mind. And I would challenge any assumption that this is easy stuff, because it's not. It takes great courage and, what's more, great humility. But you can do this. If you believe in what we celebrate every 4th of July, you can do this. If you believe that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness extend not only to you, but to everyone, you can do this. If you believe in the power of the individual, you can do this. If you accept this challenge, and if your experience is anything like mine, your life will be richer and more fulfilling for it. And our community, our country, and our world will be better for it too. Thank you very much.
Happily, I stand before you. Hold on, just one second. Sorry. Let me start here again. There we go. I'm humbled to stand before you with an urgent message from our trees. Invasive vines are suffocating us. They block the sun, they break the branches, and like sails on a boat, they catch the wind that brings us down. This may be beautiful to look at, but the forest floor is completely carpeted by English ivy, creating a food desert for wildlife. Where are the young trees and the understory plants? Mulch volcanoes are a leading cause of tree death in our urban landscape. Homeowners and landscapers alike are responsible for this. Mulch should never touch the bark of a tree. Happily, in March of 2022, I met Ginger Woolrich, co-author of Essential Native Trees and Shrubs of the Eastern United States. We quickly shared our mutual interest in saving trees and agreed to meet each other for coffee 2 days later. In the meantime, I posted on Nextdoor, does anybody care? And over 100 people said yes. So when Ginger and I got together, we were both surprised and shocked. And instead of having a coffee, it was like, oh crap, now what? Yeah. So Ginger knew Nina, an environmental scientist. I met Terry through the Nextdoor post. She'd been saving trees at Quiet Waters Park. She knew Mary Ann that had been over at Truxton Park while working on her capstone project to become a watershed steward. So 5 passionate women came together and said, we can do this. Save Our Trees was founded. We agreed on our mission, save the trees in the city of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County through very specific goals: act, educate, and advocate. Collectively, we are the we and we the people. And over century, we're the ones who've been planting the problem. Our trees are now overwhelmed by invasives. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. On a personal note, I'm learning a lot. I'm planting native plants that are creating food and habitat for wildlife. And now that I know my choices have consequences, I have more intention in my garden. Yeah, that's my garden. In 3.5 years, Save Our Trees and volunteers have saved more than 10,000 trees. We've hosted 3 community forums, 2 Zoom series, spoken with garden clubs, service clubs, and community associations, and collaborated with local businesses. We've made 2 podcasts for Eye on Annapolis. Yay! go John, had our story published in What's Up Annapolis, and twice were guest speakers at the Annapolis Home Show. All of this is possible because people care. And because they care, they can change. We love our students. They've heard our message, they're taking it back into their communities, and they're doing the work. Ginger, Nina, Terry, Marianne, and I are regulars at Northeast, Broadneck, and Annapolis High School, and the students are regulars working in the woods with us. This before and after picture is a great example of what doing the work looks like. We work in the fall, winter, and early spring, and here's a fun fact. Cutting ivy is Annapolis's newest winter sport. All right, so we have 3 asks of you. Number 1, save trees. Cut the invasive vines around the trunk about waist high. Pull the vines down and away, removing the roots at least 2 feet away from the tree, and let the vines above the cut die off. That's it. 2, please plant native, and never, please never plant English ivy, Asian wisteria, and Japanese honeysuckle. Avoid vinca, barberry, liriope. Liriope flowers and seeds. It's beautiful. The birds eat the seeds. They take them into the woods. We're finding it all over the forest floor. This Native Plants for Wildlife Habitat and Conservation Landscaping is the book I take with me whenever I'm shopping for native plants, along with Ginger's. I'm a little bit behind, but I want to talk about the mulch you saw. The mulch should never touch the tree, 3 inches deep, 6 inches away from the trunk. Every tree matters. You can help by removing ivy from your trees. You can let us know by sending us an email at saveourtreestogether@gmail.com. Invite us to speak at your community events. We'll help you organize a first vine removal event. We have opportunities, information, and tutorials on our website, saveourtreestogether.org. We built the website for you and for our trees. Lastly, local governments know the issues, but they don't have the resources to solve them alone. So to quote the Lorax, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Thank you.
So when one of my daughters turned 16, she came home and she announced, I want a tattoo. I was definitely not very excited about that. And I tried to tell her the reasons, the dirty needles, hygiene, things I was really nervous about. She was pretty adamant. And so she told me she has a friend who's doing them in his basement. I was really not excited about that. So we got into an argument. I was saying no, she's saying yes. Just total lack of communication at this point. And in case you're wondering, this is where the horse story comes in. So it made me think of a time that I was training one of my horses and we were both stuck, literally stuck. Neither of us would move our feet. I was trying to get him to move. He wouldn't move. So I had to really think, like, what does the lead horse do? Because I need to now be the leader, right? I need to be the one in charge. So what does the lead horse do? Because he's 1,000 pounds, I'm not going to win a tug of war. So I need to really be the leader. So one of the major roles of a lead horse is that he encourages and supports. He leads from behind. The lead horse does not drag. So the energy is supportive and encouraging from behind. Then another big part of the lead horse's duty, he controls the feet of all the other horses. So whether it's a shake of the head, pinning the ears, he can cause the other horses to move. So in training my horse, we're both stuck. I needed to also not move backwards. So moving backwards is a retreat. That's a big no-no because I don't want him, again, 1,000 pounds, I don't want him thinking he's the boss. So I can't move backwards because he's gonna think he's the leader, but guess what? I can move sideways. So I can carry leader energy moving sideways. And to him, he doesn't see that as a retreat. So it's a redirection. So I started reframing all my thoughts like, okay, don't retreat, redirect. Like just move sideways. Let's figure out another way to get out of this kind of frozen lack of communication situation that we're in. So taking it back to the situation with my daughter. If I stick to no, which I'm allowed to, I'm the parent, right? Does she go behind my back? Does she sneak out? So what? I punish her. I take away her phone. It wasn't the relationship I wanted with my child. So I just saw a downward spiral. I wanted to continue the communication because honestly, if she's 16 and she's coming to talk to me about things, I don't want to be the one that shuts that down. So can I carry the lesson of the horse? Can I move sideways? It's a renegotiation, really, or a negotiation. Moving sideways. So I'm not retreating because if I retreat, then she's going to think mom's word means nothing and she can do whatever she wants. So we definitely didn't want that. And the bottom line for me, I had to think it's not about the tattoo. This is about a relationship. So I needed to not focus on the conflict. The relationship is more important than the conflict. I don't want to be the one slamming that door shut. Again, if she's coming to me wanting to talk to me about things, I want to keep the lines of communication open. Relationship is more important than the conflict. It's easy to get caught up in the conflict. So we negotiated. I picked the studio. I could make sure they were clean needles and all that kind of stuff. She picked the design and the placement, but I got to approve. And I paid for it. So if you know anything about tattoos, they're very expensive. And I got to go with her. So it's almost, sometimes I kind of think that tattooing is like the new ear piercing, where it was a big rite of passage to go with your daughter to get ear pierced. Now it's the tattooing. So again, in summary, the redirect, don't retreat, it leaves the lines of communication open because you're trying to think of your future relationship is more important than just that little thing that's going on right now. Stronger emotional connection because I'm listening to her. Teenagers, they think they know everything, and if you shut them down, it's just very insulting. And I love telling these stories. Thank you so much for having me. So many lessons learned from horses. You wouldn't believe the feedback is immediate. It's just been such a joy. I love telling these stories. You can find me on all the socials. I try to just give out stories for people to remember. It's not about the conflict. It's about the relationship. Thank you.
Before we learned to walk, we crawled. And this one simple movement might just be the most powerful nervous system reset you've forgotten that you already know. I'm Mitch Stanley from Arpella Physical Therapy, and I'm different. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how moving differently can change everything. Let's fast forward to today. Look familiar? Absolutely, yes. These postures take over and set us into a spinning web of stress responses that shut down the stress response signals in our brain and put us into these spirals. But I can't just get down and crawl whenever I'm stressed. Fair enough. Stay with me. All right, reset number one. We're all going to do this. Tongue on the roof of your mouth. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. As you breathe in through your nose, belly hand rises. As you breathe out of your nose, belly hand falls. This type of breathing stimulates this guy, the vagus nerve. This is our body's built-in nervous system reset button. When pressed, absolute calm, absolute systemic control. From here, if our nervous system is calm, we respond to life. If it's stressed, well, we merely just react to life. So how do we get from breathing to crawling? Well, breath is an absolute necessity in life. Then second, we learn that rolling builds our balance and our coordination. And then in order to get our favorite toy all the way over there across the hall, we learn that crawling is the best form of locomotion. And you guessed it, as adults, we should be crawling too. It's not weird. It's actually one of the most powerful resets that we can do, right? Crawling in this manner lights up both sides of our brain. In doing so, there it is. In doing so, we get signals to and from. And with this, the inputs that we get through our hands, wow, system update complete. However, somewhere along the way, we hit school, then we work, and then adulthood. And then we find it easier to press that button, that buy now button on Amazon, instead of doing exactly what we were built to do and hunt and gather. So I ask you one question. When is the last time you purposefully got down to the ground in order to play and explore your environment? Feet on the ground connect us to balance, strength, and calm. But hands and feet on the ground, that added brain input, brain candy all day long. All day long. However, we don't have to get down to crawl. So reset number 2, right there from the seat of your pants, opposite hand, opposite knee, back and forth. Feel free to do it for as long as you want. You can do it for the remainder of the night because it's what our body was built to do. We should do. By moving in this manner, we are resetting our brain for resiliency and recovery. We are resetting our emotions and we reset our spirits this way. The payoff? Better sleep. I think everyone wants that. Right? More energy and less stress. Families who move together and crawl together, because we live it day in, day out in my family, heal together. I see it in the clinic every day, just ripple through generations, and I think I will forever continue to do this because this is what we were made to do, born to do. I think we can all agree that kids do not do what we say, at least mine don't, but man, are they amazing at copying what we do. And imagine a community, better yet, imagine a society that moves and plays and crawls like this together, because how we move today will echo through our kids, it will echo through our grandkids, and it will echo through all the loved ones that you spend your time with and choose to spend your time with. Change how you move, and you'll change everything. If you take nothing away from tonight, thank you. If you take nothing away from tonight, take this. It is okay to be different. Everyone in here tonight is here because we think differently. And I am here tonight to tell you that it is absolutely okay to move differently. Weird, whatever it is, that's great, right? But why not do it through crawling? From tonight on, moving forward, you guys have a choice. You can either continue to disconnect from what makes us human, or you can reclaim it one breath, one crawl, one reset at a time. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Brittany.
Hi, I'm Ingrid.
Generally, Hispanic and Latino communities struggle with access to the help they need in spaces that should be welcoming and safe. Whether in hospitals, grocery stores, or schools, many face language barriers every day. As a Hispanic student, I saw my parents' struggles reflected in school. Trying to navigate systems that weren't made for us, balancing both worlds opened my eyes to injustice, but it also inspired me to create change and help others find their voice.
Hispanic students often have to navigate challenges alone. Especially as first-generation students, we often lack access to clear guidance and resources, making the path to success feel overwhelming. My family came to this country seeking opportunity, but I quickly saw how inequality shows up in our communities. Although we faced barriers, we didn't let us stop us. These experiences lit fire. Injustice drives us, and the need to make sure no voice goes unheard, and that every Hispanic student feels seen and supported. Allowing Hispanic students to feel seen and supported breaks these barriers for us placed systematically.
These barriers are like a brick wall at a door, blocking us from opportunities on the other end of it. We are
One of the most fast and growing communities in the US, yet one of the most unrepresented in leadership and government. Lacking Hispanic officials leaves an entire community without mentors and many unheard.
Instead of waiting for someone else to make a change, we took action. We founded Leaders Unidos, a student-led club at Annapolis High School dedicated to empowering Hispanic and Latino students. We aim to unite students to help them develop advocacy abilities and prepare them to become impactful leaders in their schools and communities.
Students who once remained silent are now stepping forward. That's the impact of being told your voice has power.
We also focus on policy and advocacy to teach how change happens. We provide members with experience in the political process and how to build relationships with officials who can advocate for our communities.
Leadership isn't something we do alone. It's something we build together. We're shaping the future. Encouraging members to take action in their communities reflects our current representatives' initiative.
It isn't just about us as students, it's about what happens when we all rise together. When one student finds their voice, it echoes across different communities, schools, families, and generations. It can build a stronger and more connected Annapolis.
We want to break the stereotypes that limit and hold our Hispanic and Latino youth back. Instead of simply being defined by them, we can be defined by our voice, leadership, and engagement. Change doesn't happen at once. It can start small. Even the smallest efforts and actions can all lead up to something bigger.
Every voice can work together and lead to something greater that empowers an entire community of lasting change.
To all the adults here, you can become a mentor to our youth. Your belief in us and support for our ideas can open doors for us. The next generation may be ready. They just need your support to actually move forward. Especially teachers, your support matters. When you see potential in a student, encourage them to lead. Listen to their ideas.
Sometimes all it takes is one adult saying, "I believe in you," to change a student's entire path. Be that person, open those doors.
And to our community, show up for our Hispanic youth. Advocate for equity in education, scholarships, and representation. Celebrate our culture, our stories, and our resilience. Let's build spaces and community where every student belongs. Change doesn't happen in silence.
At Annapolis High School, every Hispanic student is welcomed into an environment where they can feel seen, heard, and valued. Inclusion here is not just a word, it's a daily commitment that empowers students and allows them to grow with confidence. We're building a community where every voice matters.
This inclusion should exist throughout all communities because inequality isn't waiting. It is happening now. Every day we delay, another student feels unseen and unheard, leading to another story lost. Change can't wait. It starts now with us.
Change starts when someone believes in you. For us, that person was our teacher, Miss Mish, who is actually here tonight.
Without her support, Leaders Unidos wouldn't exist. She passed that spark to us, and now we want to make sure we pass it on. Together, we can all keep that fire going.
With every hand reaching out, a new spark begins.
Our hope here is that you leave here tonight inspired to help our youth find their voices and be leaders, believing in their power to make change.
No matter how small it is, our future is in all your hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I've spent years behind the camera from film to digital. Today, I want to talk about something we often overlook: captions, metadata, and why archiving matters as much as photographs themselves. Every family, every community has boxes like this filled with photos, but often without names, dates, and stories. Without context, those memories fade. A generation later, we lose track of those who we were. I started out in the darkroom labeling film and negatives by hand. Back then, it was just part of the process. I didn't realize these habits would one day become the foundation of preserving history. In Kuwait, I photographed soldiers, USO shows, and community life. These weren't just entertainment shots. These were records of service, culture, and resilience far from home. Working in public affairs in Philadelphia, I'll let that stay there for a minute, I captured moments like President Obama's arrival. These photos were for just news. They became part of history and captioned and archived properly. At the Naval Academy, I documented leaders and midshipmen. Each image represents a story in uniform, but without metadata, without proper file names and captions, these official portraits risk of being lost in digital noise. This is where metadata comes in. A photo with captions, keywords, creator info isn't just a file, it becomes a historical document, searchable and meaningful. Now imagine thousands of files named image 1234 or new folder 2 without structure. It's chaos. The history is there, but completely disconnected from its story. Compare that to a simple, consistent system of folders by year, projects, names, organizations, and you put all that in order like it is here. It means everyone can pick up where they left off. So the metadata is actually in your phone. You can do this on your own. You can add the who, what, where, when. It's easier than you think, and the information becomes part of the photo forever. And here's an example right here of how you can turn that photo into a record. And then to have some of the photos here with no caption, just a face, you can see it doesn't have any information, and then you add the information that gives it value. And this is why I think having a community darkroom is also important. Not to just teach film, but to teach people how to create art and preserve their work. Every print becomes part of an artistic archive. There we go. And film isn't dead. It's an archive waiting to be rediscovered. With today's scanners, we can connect analog and digital worlds, preserving the best of both. And also there's civilian journalism. That matters also. Communities documenting themselves. If we don't tell our own stories, someone else will, and they might not get it right. So when I cover certain events out in the community, it's not just for publication, it's for preservation. It's for our cultural memories. It deserves proper archiving. Now, some of the photos that I've taken also are hanging on gallery walls, and they're archived properly, and those are, and that's what holds the history. And also, my goal is actually to pass this on and teach the next generation that photography isn't just likes and shares, it's about preserving the truth for the future. So here's my call to action. Caption your photos, add metadata, remember your files, archive your work. It only takes a few seconds, but keeps your story alive. Learn more and start archiving today. And on this last slide, not this slide, but the next one coming up, you will see that there are links to different websites where you can also learn how to archive. And I'm also open for people. If you want to reach out to me, I can teach you and show you how to do that properly. And that's my time. Thank you.
Good evening, can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, my name is Vanessa Bright, and I am the founder of Maryland Reentry Resource Center in Greenleaf. Tonight, I want to demonstrate for you how restoring people and restoring the environment go hand in hand. So who am I? I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mother, I'm a social worker, I'm an author, and I'm a person who believes in building bridges where walls once stood. My journey began on this very stage 6 years ago when I spoke about the revolving doors of mass incarceration. And it took me 6 years. I finally listened to that video today because I thought, well, maybe I should listen to it before I speak again. And so one of the things I said, it was that I was going to launch Maryland Reentry Resource Center, and that's what I did a couple of months after my presentation. So Maryland's recidivism rate is 41%. That's not just a statistic. It's people returning to prison because they didn't have a fair chance to rebuild their lives. Each return to prison means a lost future, broken families, neighborhoods trapped in cycles of poverty. It drains our public safety, our public health, and our shared humanity. But injustice just isn't social, it's also environmental. Many of the communities that are impacted by incarceration are also those suffering from polluted water, poor air quality, and neglect. In places like Curtis Bay, they face environmental hazards, while others like Severna Park enjoy green spaces. Justice means bridging that divide. I personally reached my breaking point when I learned two things. The first, there's a proverb that says, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. My son, who's 21 now, was diagnosed with asthma when he was 2, and I did a lot of research and I learned it, it was the environment that led to that diagnosis. Also, while I was teaching in a prison, I learned that people were not being prepared to return home and be successful. Michael Jordan once said there were many players that were better than him, but what they lacked was an opportunity. And so that's what drives me, to build opportunity where none exists. So with a staff of 7, we provide case management services, transitional housing, mental health support, training, employment assistance, transportation, and much, much more. In 2022, we launched the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Initiative, and we've worked with organizations like Save Our Trees. Returning citizens participate in life skills education and stormwater maintenance training, and they earn an industry credential, they receive job placement assistance and wraparound services. And then this year, we launched Greenleaf, which is a certified minority business enterprise that restores both ecosystems and human potential. At the intersection of justice and environmental restoration, returning citizens are earning industry credentials, finding stable jobs, discovering their purpose while protecting the Chesapeake Bay. So where does restoration begin? It begins with people, and everything else will follow. Greenleaf is a business built on the restoration of people and also the environment. We restore ecosystems with second chance opportunities, supportive services. We eliminate those invasive species. We address erosion and runoff. We plant a lot of natives, Susan, and we improve soil health. Environmental harm and social injustice share the same roots: disinvestment and exclusion. Restoration starts when we address them both. So at Greenleaf, we create green careers, we provide dignity, hope, stability, and power, offering a path forward in communities that have long been ignored. And if we don't do this work, the Chesapeake Bay is the one that pays the price: lost wildlife and damaged economies. But when we restore a person's dignity, they restore their community, and that has a ripple effect. When people are excluded from the workforce, everyone pays the price: unemployment, incarceration, community instability. And Maryland also has to spend millions of dollars on cleanup and lost tourism, fisheries, and waterfront value. So in just 6 years, Maryland Reentry Resource Center has helped hundreds of citizens We've launched a social enterprise, and we've formed relationships with organizations like the Watershed Stewards, Alliance for the Bay, Seven River Association, Scenic Rivers Land Trust, and many more. And together we're showing that restoration begins with people, and that also we can scale a business model where clean water, good jobs, and second chances grow side by side. So our vision forward is more jobs, more healing gardens, more natives, and more justice. Please visit our website for more information, sign up for our newsletter, and connect on our socials. And we want to just thank you to all of our supporters, our board members, our staff, and everyone who believes restoration starts with people. Thank you.
Hello, another round of applause for all these amazing speakers. Unbelievable, they're so good. Those two young women from Annapolis High School, oh my gosh, we were back there like tearing up. And I just want to say thanks. We're about to have intermission, which is one of my favorite parts of any event. You can pop back to the bar. Outside, there is a taco truck, so go get some tacos or delicious food from Picante. I'm going to get into the nitty gritty for just a few seconds here and say a very important thing is that all the proceeds from everything tonight goes to Maryland Hall, which is near and dear to all of our hearts, certainly to all of you and to me. This incredible place that we are lucky to have here in the community. I was telling Austin that the last time I was on the stage, I think I was 5 doing ballet, and now I bring my daughter here to do ballet. So I love it here, you love it here. And I'm a writer, I'm only as good as my words, and I want to read exactly what the mission statement here, because I think it's so wonderful. Maryland Hall exists to give its communities access to transformative arts experiences and creative expression so that they can live fuller and more meaningful lives. That's what it's all about. So I'm glad that we're all here tonight. And also importantly, we couldn't do it without the support of our sponsors. We've got Thibodeau Media Group, the Katzef Brothers, The Graduate by Hilton. I love their smash burger. Covington Alsina, thank you so much for supporting this event. I'm glad it's back. We're all so happy. And last but not least, I want to say if anything tonight has piqued your interest, I hope it has. You can find more information about all the programming at Maryland Hall on the website and sign up for the newsletter. Highly recommend the book club. And thank you so much. Enjoy intermission. We'll see you soon. Hello again. They sent me out here because you rowdy people won't sit down. Sounds like everyone had fun at intermission. Glad to hear it. And I am not going to stay out here very long. I have nothing more to say except the first half was incredible. They set a high bar, and let's see how the second half does.
As I was working on this talk, I came across an interesting statistic. 100% of all people are going to die someday. Now, I'm not trying to be depressing. I'm saying it to make the point that that's part of the circle of life. And yet we are so hesitant to discuss end-of-life issues. So for a few minutes tonight, can we talk about our quality of death as the extension of our quality of life? And I'd like to do that by telling you an oddly uplifting story about a woman named Dolly, my mother, and her decision to positively influence her final months by using New Jersey's medical aid in dying law to leave this world with dignity and sass. To understand Dolly's decision, it helps to understand Dolly. She was smart, practical, decisive, affectionate, but not overly sentimental. She was a relentless flirt, but a faithful wife. She was, all of those things, and she'd never hesitate to say, "I love you." Her story in a nutshell: she was 21 years old when her husband was killed in World War II, just 3 months after their son was born. She moved back home with her parents so they could help raise Mike while she finished her college degree. She later met my father, they married, and they had 5 daughters. At age 46, Dolly went back to school while she had 3 school-age children still at home, and she got her master's degree in library science while living in the dorm. She built her career, think about that. She built her career in West Virginia, directing the library services for the prison systems and for the blind and physically handicapped. She and my father moved to Florida for a while, but ultimately settled in New Jersey. And they lived and laughed and fussed and aged. And my father was 10 years her senior. And so at age 98, he went into a nursing home and died a few months later. In a way, Dolly bloomed in her independence. She got to know the names and the life stories of all of the staff members, and she was always at the ready with a hug or a piece of candy. And she adopted pink as her favorite color. At age 92, Dolly was diagnosed with breast cancer. Treatments staved off for a while, and my husband and I offered for her to come and live with us if she got to a point where she couldn't live alone. But she was fine right where she was. And at her 95th birthday party, when someone asked her advice for a long life, she said, "Always be in control." At age 96, scans showed the cancer had spread. On a family phone conference, her doctor explained to us that her hip was nearly gone and that soon it would collapse, and she would be permanently on pain meds and immobile, suffering while the cancer finished her off. She said, "That is not how I want to go. I have looked into New Jersey's medical aid in dying law, and I want to go while I still have some control." We listened as the doctor explained what that meant, and we understood it was Dolly's decision, and we respected it. I circled back around to her to talk to her about her living situation again. Her comment here is important. She said, "I couldn't come live with you in Maryland because your state doesn't have a law that gives me the option to die with dignity. And we don't. 11 other states and DC do. Laws that allow a terminally ill, mentally sound adult, to decide for themselves when enough is enough. Despite 70% of Marylanders are being in favor of this law, we can't get it passed because year after year it keeps getting pushed aside, which is fine until it's you or someone you love in that situation." But let me finish Dolly's story. So the next few months were terrible, wonderful, all of the above. We started taking turns staying with her while she was becoming more frail. And as I brought up the topic of her funeral one day, she said, "Do we have to wait until I'm dead to have it? I want to be there." And so we did. So 2 months later, stop. 2 months later, we had a service, a celebration for her at the church, followed by a luncheon where she invited her doctor to stop in. And when he walked in, we applauded him. The next day, weary but still in charge, Dolly began her next adventure. She got to choose to spend her final days engaged with the people she loved in a joyful environment. Wouldn't we all want to have a choice like that? Yes. If you would like more information about this or to read about the laws on the books or the laws that are being proposed, those 2 websites are a great resource. Let's start treating our quality of death like the final phase of our quality of life. Thank you.
Great to be back again. Houston, we have a housing problem. Is housing a basic need or is it an investment product? This tension seems to be an intractable problem, but we have options locally. It's a nuanced topic, but I'll give it a shot in 5 minutes. Everyone needs shelter. Costs must go down or more people have no place to live. This is not just a utilitarian problem. Buying a house is a deeply moral thing in American society, and we associate it with commitment, maturity, and responsibility. At the same time, a house is an investment asset. In fact, the conventional wisdom is that a house is the best investment many of us will ever make. Values must go up, or our personal wealth and the economy as a whole will tank. Yet, we insist on both. We want housing prices to come down so our kids can afford a first home. But if the price of my house falls, my nest egg goes away. As a result, the balance is tipped in favor of housing as an asset by people, industry, and government. We need more housing, but what typically gets built by the national housing machine are large-scale developments that are really just Wall Street investment products. This scale is a bit disruptive, and often they're not very affordable. We'll revisit this in a minute. The typical political solution to this problem is more debt. Individuals borrow more when interest rates are low, or governments borrow more for increased subsidies. Either way, costs don't go down, and it's not sustainable and leads to boom and bust cycles. We can't change that national game, but we can change the local game with the city government toolbox of zoning, permitting processes, city-owned land, and traditional affordable housing programs. Originally well-meaning, these tools are often used to prevent change and limit housing types. Couple that with existing regulatory incentives, and it drives options to the high end as we see all around the city these days. Let's take a look at some more of these. Lot and house size, setback, occupancy, parking requirements all dictate what gets built. These rules in our city code are biased towards larger single-family homes in much of the city. Many of these rules are arbitrary or even vestiges that no one can even remember where they come from. We have many regulations which are difficult for non-professionals to navigate, so only big developers with deep pockets and a lot of lawyers can navigate that process. This results in large-scale projects at luxury prices to make it work financially. Land is the prized commodity here, and how it's used determines the housing size and cost. Current incentives lead to a monoculture of scrape-offs and million-dollar homes. Furthermore, these are fiscally bad for the city, but that's a topic for next year. While things churn along nationally, there are local changes we can make now with policies that encourage more housing options. Let's discuss a few more of these in more detail. Small lot sizes for modest homes are more affordable for the middle class and less likely to cause displacement and gentrification. They're not likely to be scraped and, quote, biggered because of the small lot size. This is a goal with the new Tyler Avenue Overlay District. Simple, clear requirements and less process for small-scale development reduces friction and lowers cost. For example, duplexes and triplexes are the most affordable and are everywhere in Annapolis. These are traditional pathways to home ownership and wealth building with the additional market rate rental income they typically provide. They already exist virtually everywhere in the city and are well liked. We also have many ADUs in neighborhoods. They're lower priced rentals compared to other market rate options and are often built by the homeowner. So let's reduce regulation for constructing them while at the same time maintaining regulation to prevent widespread use as short-term rentals. We must also continue traditional affordable housing programs like that built at the Willows and our moderately priced dwelling unit law to produce below market rate options. They can't solve the whole problem, but they do contribute to the solution. The city can contribute land for lower cost housing options without needing any additional budget. Cleaning up and repurposing the old public works facility on Spa Road is a great example of reusing that land for the public good. These ideas are incremental and don't produce large disruptive change. They're not mandates, but do allow people the right to implement them if they wish. So it won't happen all at once, something that happens over time. They won't solve the whole problem, but are a path forward that, importantly, we control. Our comprehensive plan supports these incremental changes, so let's encourage our leadership to implement it in the future. If we fight everything because of fear of change, counterintuitively, we get large change, exactly what we don't want. To repeat the theme from my 2019 Ignite talk, no neighborhood should experience radical change, but at the same time, no neighborhood should be exempt from change. And if you want a deeper dive into these, check out my blog at teamplan.org. Thank you.
I'm kind of short. I am an active listener, serial observer, and an overthinker. I married my best friend, and together we're doing our best to raise 3 average adults. Yes, I said average. I want them to be happy and sad. I want them to have feelings of frustration and success, and I want them to feel all the feels. I want them to struggle, and I want them to fail even, because I want them to know that they can and will take those moments and use that as the data to make new decisions and make changes that make sense. I don't know about you, but parenting is tough. Beautiful, meaningful, but tough. This could be a talk where I'm just rationalizing my parenting. Ultimately, we want our kids to become autonomous, and that journey starts when they are young. According to Google, autonomous is defined as having the freedom and independence to govern oneself, make one's own decisions, and act according to one's own values and principles without being controlled by others. This talk is how 100% isn't about being perfect. It's about prioritizing effort and the value of learning through trial and error. The decisions we make are just part of the journey, and most decisions are not final. They are milestones, steps, and small goals. The journey is your whole life. So our mantra is embrace the journey. Embrace the adventure, and please find ways to enjoy it. There's a lot of pressure today to be perfect, to give 100% effort 100% of the time. For me, that's parenting, work, relationships, self-care, check every box, be amazing, and smile for Instagram. But let's be honest, that's impossible, well, at least for me. In my opinion, nobody can give 100% of the time. And somewhere along the way, society forgot to tell us that's okay. I'm going to take you back to elementary school, something many of you probably still dread. It is the science fair project. I can already see the eye rolls, the sighs, the trauma, and the late nights with trifolds, glue sticks, and maybe even tears. And those tears may have come from us parents. Now, I loved science fair projects, and my favorite was the year my parents helped me make a volcano cake that erupted whipped cream. It made a mess, and it was glorious. They didn't do the project for me, but they were to make sure I didn't burn myself. Maybe that's why I look forward to those projects with my own kids. The science fair is one of the only times I can remember in childhood when we are not expected to be perfect. Think about that. In school, we're trained to get everything right. 100% on a spelling test or a math quiz. Eat 100% of your vegetables. Listen to me 100% of the time. With the science fair project, you didn't have to know the answer before you started. In fact, the entire point was not knowing. So you come up with a question or a hypothesis, you make the guess about the answer, you test it, you collect the data, and you come to the conclusion based on the data you collected. Imagine if we treated life that way almost all the time. I get it, some things can't be data-driven, but most decisions can. Every day we create hypotheses. Is this the right career for me? The right person to build a life with? Do I want to continue playing football? That's our son's journey to figure out if football is a priority. Does gluten hate my body? That's our oldest daughter trying to figure out her journey to take charge of her body. We don't always get it right the first time, and we're not supposed to, because life is about asking questions, finding the data we need to answer the questions, and then making decisions based on the data. And here's the most important part: evaluating if the decision we made, given the data we had, in fact is working or not. Our middle daughter chose to attend a university 5 hours from home. Big school, big decision. And she crushed it academically, but emotionally she struggled. She felt alone, at times miserable. She kept telling us that she made a decision that she needs to stick to it. It was very hard for her to consider reevaluating. So we reminded her, it's time to ask a new question, gather more data. She eventually transferred, changed a few things, and she's starting her experiment again. Gathering new data points, determining if the latest decision she made needs to be revisited. All this is not about making perfect decisions, but staying open to change and open to reviewing the data she continues to gather. So if you take anything from today, I hope it's this: stop chasing 100%. Stop expecting it from your kids. And stop expecting it from yourself. Instead, live your life like a science fair project.
Well, this is Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse, celebrating 150 years of keeping the light shining. Built in 1875, it stands as the last screw pile lighthouse in its original location in the world, still serving as a beacon. It's a National Historic Landmark. It is one of only 12 lighthouses in the nation that have that designation. This photo from 1885 shows no rocks around the lighthouse. It also shows that the sea level is 20 inches lower than today. The lighthouse was built as a kit in Baltimore, disassembled and reassembled at sea. The first manned lighthouse was manned by the United States Lighthouse Service, followed by the Coast Guard in 1939, and then later it was automated. This, historically, ice was its biggest failure. All lighthouses are succumbed to ice. There were 40 screw piles at one time on the bay. This is the last one. In 2004, the lighthouse was transferred to the city of Annapolis. It was a mess. The electricity had been cut off. It was filled with debris and dirt and rotten wood and leaking windows. Today, it is a showpiece. It's been restored and furnished with authentic pieces. Each room in the lighthouse has a different story of part of its history created by the lighthouse curator. Here, history doesn't just sit behind glass, it actually comes alive. But it's still a wooden house in the middle of the bay, and it's still succumbed to all of the repairs and necessary painting that we have to do all the time. Through these efforts, we have assured it that it's going to remain as just not only standing, but as a legacy for the future. It's an active aid to navigation. Today, the Lighthouse Society maintains it, the Coast Guard maintains the beacon, and the NOAA has a weather station out there. In 2020, failing steel was replaced through donations and grants. The original cast iron screw piles, though, are as good today as they were when they were put in 1875. They're solid. In 2023, we removed the plywood underneath the lighthouse. And you can see here, these are the original cypress beams from 1875. They are in perfect condition. Architecturally, they are a thing to behold. Restoration has taken hundreds of people, blood, sweat, and unwavering dedication. Preservation days fill quickly with our people, and the docents do a fabulous job interpreting the lighthouse. The stories are endless, so is the passion that sustains them. This is Lily, my granddaughter. She's now 25 years old and still goes out and cleans at the lighthouse. Katharine Hepburn once said, volunteers don't get paid because they're worthless, they are priceless. We also have lost our dock in 2024 in Tropical Storm Debbie. Our Coyote took it up the bay 7 miles. We now have our Coyote back. We have the dock rebuilt, and we have a new pup at the lighthouse. The 6 dormers made Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse is the largest screw pile ever built. In fact, it gave it strength, and the strength is carried through. It was a design from the 19th century, designed by a blind engineer who designed the screw piles. But it was really the rocks that saved it. So 54,000 sunrises at this lighthouse since it was built. The question is, how do we ensure that it sees another 54,000 sunrises and is here for our great-great-great-grandchildren? There's storm clouds on the horizon. And whether you believe in climate change or not, the bay is rising. Average number of minor flood days in Annapolis since the 70s has quadrupled. We are seeing it and we are feeling it. This is a part of our engineering study they commissioned that shows that the sea level has risen 20 inches since in the last 150 years. It's going to raise another 20 inches in the next 25 years. And by 2100, it will be 5 feet higher. The corral will be underwater. So how do we save it? What do we do with this? Do we elevate the structure? Do we get your phones ready? In 30 seconds, you'll see a QR code that will take you to our website to find out more about the history of the lighthouse and what we're going to do. Since 2004, the lighthouse, today, lost my train of thought here, sorry. Our volunteers will continue to maintain the lighthouse and do everything necessary with unwavering effort. There's no pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, only unwavering beauty. So follow our story on Facebook and on our webpage and see how we're going to come up with raising and elevating this out of harm's way. Thank you.
Let's talk about spirit, not spirits as in alcohol or ghosts. Although you put the two together, you have a pretty awesome Halloween party. No, spirit, singular, a word we don't use too often in our modern culture. We prefer words like health and wellness. We often use them interchangeably when they don't really mean the same thing. Health is often defined by an absence of illness, whereas wellness can incorporate many different dimensions. Some enterprising people at the University of Wisconsin turned them into an acronym. There's nothing academics love more than a good acronym. Second only to the military, in my opinion. Thanks to them, we get species, social, physical, emotional, career, intellectual, and environmental and spiritual, or spirit. There's that word again, considered essential to our well-being. So what do we mean by spirit? That's what I'd like to reflect on with you this evening. We live in challenging times, and many people consider themselves to be dispirited, especially young people. When I was young, my mom had a debilitating disease, multiple sclerosis or MS. If you're not familiar, it attacks the nervous system and can affect any part of the body. In her case, it started with her legs. When I was in early elementary school, she would lean on me and call me her walking, talking cane. But it progressed rapidly, and by the time I was 10, she could not move from the neck down, and she moved into a nursing home when she was in her early 50s. Now, some might say that she had been reduced to spirit, quite literally. Immobile, dependent on other people for her most basic needs, she was all spirit. And I can tell you with confidence that her spirit radiated. How? How under those conditions was her spirit so vibrant, so alive? Sadly, I never got a chance to ask her directly, but over the years, I've reached my own conclusion and identified 4 key elements that made up her spirit that I think could be instructive for the rest of us. First, always help. Now you may ask how in that situation? Well, it started with a chair, a kind of lazy boy on wheels that she dubbed Cleopatra's barge. It allowed her to get around the nursing home with the help of her nurses, my father, and, well, me. She became the de facto ambassador of the home, greeting newcomers, welcoming guests, comforting those who were grieving, and generally checking on residents and staff alike. She attended every religious service offered at the small chapel of the home, regardless of denomination. She said she liked to cover her bases. But she would follow that up saying it was important to attend as one of the few lucid people in the home. In other words, she was ministering to the ministers. Be open to all that life offers and throws at you. And I think it's fair to say that life had thrown quite a bit at my mom, yet not once did I ever hear her say, "Why me?" Rather, she greeted each day with fresh eyes and a warm heart. Especially the day my older sister Beth got married at the nursing home outside in a gazebo, surrounded by family and friends, as well as quite a few residents who could enjoy the day, whether they knew who it was for or not. Have purpose. I believe my mom's purpose was clear. It was to help raise me. Not physically, of course, but to be there emotionally, to shower me with attention, to ask me questions about my sporting events and camping trips in school. She would dictate notes to her nurses to give me words of encouragement at different milestones of my life. She attended my Eagle Scout Court of Honor, my high school graduation. She remained mom with a capital M. And when I went off to college, she directed my father to put together a care package of sorts, full of laundry detergent, plenty of rolls of quarters for the machines, and a stack of postcards to send home back when we actually wrote letters. Show empathy. I can remember clearly the day my mom told me about another resident who was blind, and I was asking her what kind of day it was outside. Can you imagine, my mom said, not being able to see this beautiful day or see family or friends? Said the woman unable to move a muscle. So there you have it. Always help, be open, have purpose, show empathy, HOPE. Oh, see what I did? I created an acronym. I work at Anne Arundel Community College. I mean, you can take the boy out of academia, but, hope. I think our world could use a little more hope. It can really test our health and our wellness at times. But if we follow these principles, I believe it could uplift our spirits and enrich our lives. I believe it could help our community too, to borrow a little more of the spirit of hope. Oh, that's one more thing I wanted to mention about my mom. That was her name, Hope. Thank you.
Ideas are personal. Ideas fill us with hope. Ideas are a light in darkness because ideas mean that imagination is alive. I mean, think about it, right? People don't spend much time building ideas around something they think is hopeless. If I asked you, do you have an idea? It would communicate that you matter and that I want to hear from you. And if we all participated in this, think of how many ideas we could gather. Having more ideas gives depth to countless areas of life, to your policy meetings, your business endeavors, your military campaigns, environmental concerns, and even how your family decides on dinner. Coincidentally, your ability to receive these ideas is a simple way of offering dignity and respect to people in your life. David Ossenberger, the author and counselor, says that being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. Ideas are sacred. And I think we need to create space for more ideas. Tonight, I want to show you one way that we can achieve more ideas. The strategy is a micro piece of a larger brainstorming process that I call the gathering stage. And it's really simple. You ask a group of people for an idea, and you gather all the ideas before you offer critique or criticism. Letting the presented ideas bounce around stimulates other ideas from different people. There's a time for critique, but it's never in the gathering stage of the brainstorm process. The challenge, though, for each of us is that most people and groups think that they brainstorm well. So you have to listen for the details closely. The details are key to gathering more ideas. So let's pretend that you're an owner of a store on Main Street who has just read an article correlating the time a person is in your store with the amount that person spends. You call the staff together and you brief the employees on your newfound knowledge. And you might say something like this: I want to create a ton of ideas around a question, but here's the thing. You're not allowed to critique with any of the ideas with your words, your body language, or even your eye rolls. I just want to hear a ton of ideas and listing them out. And so you ask the question, how do we keep customers in the store longer? One brave employee speaks up and says, well, what if we spread items out? Great, you write it down. Another says, well, how about we greet customers at the door? You write it down. A cashier says, what if we change the playlist? You write it down. It triggers another idea from someone. Well, what if we had a playlist of nothing but local artists? You write it down. Employees start rattling off the ideas. One employee says, what if we had an employee recommendation card so that people could see what items we like in the store? What if we had coffee in winter and lemonade in summer, dimmer lights, pleasant smells, cleaner bathrooms, a holiday art contest for local schools, a temperature focused on customers, not the employees? Listen, all of a sudden, as the owner, you quickly have 10 workable ideas that cost you almost nothing. And in the process of that, you're giving everyone dignity and respect. The best ideas are sometimes the 15th, 20th, or 30th idea offered, but we never get there because people shut down when self-labeled realists or pragmatists or devil's advocates are critiquing ideas in the gathering stage. I call these untimely critiques idea killers. Idea killers whisper to you, how could we ever do that? We don't have the space for that. That would take too long. And consequently, nothing is gained. Ideas are squashed and never shared, and the best solutions are never found. The alternative is to give space to all of the ideas to be shared and gathered. And note, it doesn't cost you anything to say, wow, instead of saying, how, right? We live in a time when we need incredible ideas from groups of people willing to work together, to lose the ego and to think about the greater good. And I believe that you have it in you, right? You were created to create. Forget about the times in your life when people unfairly and untimely told you your idea will never work. Screw them. Be bold. Share. The crazier, the better, because the craziest ideas challenge people to think deeper about what could be. Ideas are multiplied in this kind of environment. One idea can easily become 30 ideas. Imagine that. More ideas, more solutions. It sounds like an inspiring place to be to me.
We have props. All right. We all have people who have made a big influence in our life, and my dad was one of those for me. He was an entrepreneur who worked really hard, but he also wasn't afraid to be a goofball and have fun. I have no doubt where I got my work ethic and my goofiness from. It was Christmas Eve 2001 when we got the call that his cancer was back, and he died 6 months later. I was devastated, but I also came to see his death at the young age of 58 as a gift of life to me, because from that moment on, I took lots of chances. Adventure, driving fast, flying high, diving deep, anything that looks like fun, most anything, I'd give it a try. Even professionally, I leaned in and I took opportunities and chances that really kind of scared me at first, but took me to places I could never imagine, like the White House or leading the US at the G20 in China, or speaking opportunities all over the world. But moving to Annapolis was my best risk because I bought my house here when I knew my job was ending in a year and I didn't have another one lined up. But I'm still here, so it worked out. One of the things, though, that I always wanted to do was to be at a Mardi Gras parade. There's something about the energy and the colors and the smiles. Don't they look like they're having fun? Well, I must have shared this crazy bucket list idea with a colleague at the University of Maryland, because as I was leaving that job, she gave me a kit on how to do my own second line parade in New Orleans. It had everything from beads to permits to a checklist, and I had to do it. So my partner Larry and I gathered up some of our most adventurous friends. We fed them with homemade beignets and gumbo and invited them to join us. It was a unanimous yes. And after a few hurricane cocktails later, we came up with our theme, Ain't Dead Yet. And that night, the crew of Addie was born. A year later, we had 30 people from all over the country, friends, friends of friends, and family, join us in New Orleans to parade down Bourbon Street, and some of them are here tonight. There's my crew. We had our own 7-piece brass band, a stilt walker, even a police escort down the street. And we all agreed to show up sober, and even hired a photographer so we could take it all in. To a person, we had 5 decades represented. It was a magical experience, and there were common themes of celebration and joy. We were just out there celebrating life, and it must have been contagious, because at one point we had 100 people parading down Bourbon Street with us. And the woman on the right, dressed in pink, was celebrating the end of her cancer journey and wanted to take a picture with our sign that said, Ain't Dead Yet. And it made me think, why don't we celebrate more? For me, dancing is a celebration. So I bought everybody I know a 30-second dance party, just because it clears the mind and it brings out fun. Try not to smile when you're dancing. But it also made me wonder, why do we wait until somebody's dead to celebrate life? Except for Dolly. I am so impressed by that. But seriously, it's a 100% chance that we're all gonna die. And none of us know how much time we have left on this earth. And that was something that came hitting to me about 1.5 years after our parade, when I was diagnosed with aggressive cancer. Can't look at the picture. And don't let that smile fool you. The chemotherapy that I was on was called the Red Devil, and it threw me into the bottom of a deep well where I couldn't even muster the energy to dance for 30 seconds. But I kept seeing pictures from our Addie parade, and I just wanted so desperately to feel that lightness and joy. But what does joy mean to you? It's something different for everybody. For some people, it's being in nature or being around your grandkids or kids. Around here, a lot of us find joy on the water in a sailboat, or my new favorite, a dragon boat. Sometimes, but we all have these scripts that say, when I do something, when I lose weight, when my kids leave, then I will do all those things. We let life get in the way of living. I was with my dad the day that he found out his cancer was terminal, and his words have never left me. He kept saying, there's so much left to do. I want to live my life such that when that time comes for me, that I know that I celebrate it every day. You know, there's a lot of heavy stuff going on in the world right now, and I'm not trying to trivialize that, but when was the last time you gave yourself permission to really celebrate life and feel real joy? We ain't dead yet, and I'm gonna keep dancing. Who's with me?
Thank you so much. These speakers were extraordinary. One more round of applause for them. I'd like to bring out, just to say goodnight and thank you to the three people who made this happen, the organizers, Jackie, Imani, and Austin.
Huge thanks to Kate Myers. Yeah. I'm Austin Spizzato. I'm the director of programming here at Maryland Hall, and I'm grateful to be one of the organizers of Ignite this year, along with Imani Washington and Jackie Coleman, Chris, John Frenet. It's been such a joy. I just want to say thank you briefly. I know it's a Tuesday night, so everyone's got to get home, but grateful to have you all here at the hall. The hall is home. That's what we say here. So you're in the living room, and I really appreciate it. It warms my heart every time I see this room full. To quote Scott Shelton, I hope you're all able to receive some amazing ideas. Don't be an idea killer. I'm watching. And then briefly, huge thanks to our incredible tech staff here, Ryan, who's backstage, Josh and Antonio in the booth, and Jared and his amazing video crew. They really made it all happen. Could not do anything without them. So. And then lastly, these speakers were incredible. We just got to give one more round of applause. Yeah. So I'll leave you with one more idea. Ignite 2026 will be in October next year. So I hope to see you there. Thanks so much. Have a great night.